Okay, here we
Yes.
go. And now it's
Oh,
in progress. All right. So once again, welcome everybody. Welcome Maria Gillentine. Maria is talking about equitable access through intentional design today. So we can go ahead and get started. Maria, you can go ahead and get started if you have anything else to add. Uh, but other than that, let's just go ahead and get going.
okay. Is everyone seeing my screen? Can you give me a thumbs up? All right, awesome. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for that nice introduction, Olga. And it's great to see we have a variety of participants joining us today, even from South Carolina. I'm really curious how this got to South Carolina's news. But we're glad to have you. There's some great things happening in South Carolina too, with regard to our multilingual learners. So today we're going to explore how intentional instructional design creates equitable access for our multilingual learners. The goal is not to lower expectations or simplify the learning. Instead, it is to remove unnecessary language barriers so that our students can fully engage with grade level content and demonstrate what they know. So throughout this presentation, we'll examine practical scaffolds and modifications aligned to language proficiency levels. We'll discuss how supports evolve as students gain proficiency and how we can collaborate to help ensure consistent access across the classrooms. And hopefully by the end of the session, you'll have a framework for selecting appropriate supports that allow students to access rigorous instruction while continuing to develop academic language. Hopefully this works. Okay. Just to make sure the slides are going. So in Gwinnett, we are calling it an ELD plan. It is the English Language Development Plan, which is a tier one instructional tool that is used to document the linguistic scaffolds and assignment modifications a student needs to successfully access grade level instruction. It's important to distinguish that ELD planning from intervention. So ELD, English Language Development Planning, is different from intervention. These supports are part of the high quality core instruction and are intended to ensure access to grade level learning. The plan should align with the WIDA English Language Development Standards. And how many of you are familiar with the WIDA framework? Yes, everybody should be by now. Right. So the WIDA English Language Development Standards and focusing on supporting students in the language demands of the classroom. So our focus in ESOL is language acquisition, academic English language acquisition, but that's not to say that we don't worry about the content. So when developing language goals, we should generally target the next proficiency level above the student's current level, providing opportunities for growth while maintaining realistic expectations. So I'm telling teachers all the time that our access scores are baseline at best at the beginning of the year, and I should not be seeing those being used come December. We should be using the new WIDA performance level descriptors because access, we take it in February, we get the scores at the end of the year. They may regress a little bit in the summer, but for the most part, they would have made growth from when they took access to the end of the year, and now we're in August. So we really want to look at where they are and consider where the student currently performs and identify the skills that will move them toward the next level of proficiency, because the state expects us to make one band's growth. So we need to always be looking ahead and moving them forward through appropriate scaffolding. So our objective is to support growth while maintaining access to grade level content. And that is an important piece. So language acquisition is a developmental process, as you know. It's a developmental process. Students progress through proficiency levels as they build both language skills and academic understanding. Today, we're going to focus on the four main proficiency levels, as each level represents different strengths, needs, and instructional considerations. As educators, our role is to identify where students are currently functioning and provide supports that help them access instruction while promoting continued language growth. It's important to remember that students may demonstrate different proficiency levels across listening, speaking, reading, and writing, so flexibility and responsiveness are essential. And with our students exiting at level a composite proficiency level of 5, that's why we want to focus on these 4 with teachers in particular. And I see a couple of you are working on your doctorate, so I know this is probably very familiar with a lot of you, but our focus is helping teachers, content area teachers, really understand some of these differences and supporting them in this process, so that they are looking at not just the composite, but the individual domains to really truly identify the strengths of the students, individual students, and where the needed support really is. So that's that construction piece. So when we're talking about one of the most important concepts in supporting our multilingual learners is understanding the difference between a linguistic load and academic rigor, right? So academic rigor refers to the complexity of the thinking required. Linguistic load refers to the language demands placed on the students. So when students are struggling because of language barriers, the answer is not to lower expectations. Instead, we provide supports that reduce the language demands while preserving the cognitive challenge of the task, right? So strategies may include adjusted lexile levels, intentional scaffold, and thoughtful use of depth of knowledge expectations. The key question is, what language barrier is preventing access, rather than how can I make this easier? So I know growing up as an EL myself, María Elena no puede decir en inglés lo que sabe, but that doesn't mean that I don't know what you are trying to teach me, right? So it's not about making it easier. It is what's the language barrier that's preventing access, and how can we support that? So our goal is to ensure that students are challenged academically while receiving the language support necessary to access learning. And that's where the scaffolds come in, keeping in mind that scaffolds are temporary. So some of the things that we can look at in level 1. So students at the entering level rely heavily on visual, physical, and contextual supports. So many students understand more than they can express, but because of this, instruction should emphasize concrete experiences, demonstrations, and visual connections. So effective supports include TPR, total physical response, modeling and gestures, vocabulary to picture matching, real objects and manipulatives, sequencing activities using images. And I think part of our work as those ESOL specialists is to help those content teachers understand that it's okay. This is where their English level proficiency is. And this is how they are able to demonstrate their knowledge, right? So at this stage, students are building that foundational vocabulary and comprehension. Visual supports are not optional. They are essential for meaningful participation. Language development is most effective when students can connect new vocabulary and concepts to something they can see, touch, and experience. I heard the other day, realia was just part of my vocabulary growing up, starting out as a bilingual education teacher in California for 12 years before I moved here. Realia was just something that you knew, and somebody was like, what is that? And I guess I learned that it's a term used in the educational realm to identify things that are real objects. Like if you're talking about a cup, cup. You're going to use an actual cup, that's realia. So I just thought it was interesting. I was like, oh, I thought everybody knew that word. But anyways, by providing these concrete connections, we help build that comprehension, confidence, and the foundation for future language growth as well. So students at the entering level, again, at the entering level, modifications should recognize that students often understand more than they can express. And we really want to help teachers understand. So modifications became kind of like a dirty word because what was happening was teachers were watering down the content. We're going to modify it. We're going to make it easier. We're going to water it down. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually modifying the assignment, keeping that high rigor, keeping it at grade level, but providing scaffolds and making modifications to the assignments. The modification should recognize that students often understand more than they can express. So it's making that bridge, it's giving them that access. Because receptive language skills typically develop faster than expressive skills, support should allow students to demonstrate content understanding in ways that align with their current language abilities. So some examples of this include accepting drawings or labeling and copying instead of extended writing. So that's modifying the task, modifying the assignment, right? Reducing tasks to foundational levels of thinking, using highly supported texts with lower lexile levels, and allowing oral responses or gestures, pointing, one-word answers. All of these are examples where our goal is not to assess English proficiency in every assignment. Instead, we want to determine what students know and understand about the content. When modifications are aligned appropriately, then students can participate successfully while continuing to build their language skills. So at level 2, the emerging level, students begin producing phrases, language chunks, and simple sentences. So instruction should provide opportunities for students to practice language in supported ways. Effective supports include word banks, word walls, realia, and sensory supports, oral and visual texts, music, storytelling, and repeated language experiences. These supports encourage language production while providing the framework students need to communicate successfully. As students become more willing and able to produce language, they continue to benefit from structured supports that reduce the frustration and encourage participation. So we're lowering that affective filter, right? We're helping them to be successful. And teachers should create frequent opportunities for guided speaking and writing using supported language structures as the focus shifts from understanding language to using it more independently. So frequent opportunities for guided speaking and writing. And we want the students doing the majority of the speaking and the writing. It's supported, but they need to be the ones engaged in it. Some other examples at this level, students are capable of demonstrating increasingly complex understanding when language demands are appropriately supported. So common modifications could include shortening assignments, providing sentence stems and sentence frames, adapting grade level tasks, and adjusting lexile levels and language complexity. So again, adjusting the lexile levels, not taking it to a lower grade, not dropping it down, not making it easier, adapting grade level text and adjusting lexile levels. Sentence frames in particular are especially powerful because they provide the linguistic structure students need while still requiring them to think critically about content and contribute their own ideas and understanding. We, in Gwinnett, they started incorporating sentence structures within the science lessons. But that's not to say that you just go give everybody sentence frames or sentence structures. We really need to think about our students. where are they in real time and what is going to benefit them. But at this level, sentence structures are a great idea. And by reducing the cognitive demand of generating language from scratch, these supports allow students to focus their mental energy on demonstrating content knowledge and engaging with the academic concepts. So the goal here is to empower the students to communicate their thinking successfully without being overwhelmed by the complexity of language production. Students at the developing level are moving from sentence level communication towards connected discourse and paragraph level responses. So at this point, instructional support should help students organize thoughts, explain ideas, and engage in academic discussions. Examples of this include graphic organizers, interactive modeling, think alouds, bilingual dictionaries, and glossaries. With graphic organizers, I really tried to use the same graphic organizer for the same process because the students learned that a Venn diagram is compare and contrast, a flow chart is for sequencing and different kinds of things. So it really was helpful to them to organize their thoughts if they understood the purpose of the graphic organizer and it was consistent. So among these tools, they help students organize their thinking, deepen their understanding of academic concepts, and gradually increase the sophistication of their language. As students become more independent language users, they continue to benefit from structures that support organization, vocabulary development, and academic language production. At this stage, learners are capable of engaging deeply with content when provided with the appropriate guidance and support. Our goal is to help students bridge the gap between conversational language and the more complex language. So the different types of language that are needed. So as students move into this developing level, modification should support increasingly complex academic tasks while maintaining appropriate expectations. So examples include paragraph frames, closed paragraphs, ELP, differentiated writing checklists, so English language proficient, differentiated writing checklists, so they're tiered, and then proficiency-based rubrics. So providing rubrics is great. These supports provide structure without doing the thinking for the students. Students are expected to engage with grade level concepts while using scaffolds that help them organize and communicate their understanding effectively. It's important to remember that scaffolds are temporary supports. As students build language proficiency and confidence, these supports should gradually be reduced. The purpose of scaffolding is to move students towards independence, as I said earlier, ensuring they can eventually access rigorous learning with fewer supports. At the expanding level, they are ready to work with more complex and abstract academic language. So the focus begins to shift from basic communication to refinement, precision, and deeper academic discourse. Effective supports include amplified texts, anchor charts, explicit instruction and academic language structures, and opportunities to practice academic language in meaningful contexts. Students at this level continue to benefit from language supports, although those supports are typically less intensive and more focused on helping them navigate increasingly sophisticated academic expectations. As students become more prepared to participate independently in rigorous academic tasks, the focus shifts from basic communication to greater precision, complexity, and discipline-specific language. The goal is to foster increasing independence while continuing to strengthen the academic language proficiency and prepare the students for the demands of advanced learning. So some of the modifications at the expanding level focus on refinement, collaboration, and mastery. So examples here would include the partner-assisted learning, buddy reading, highlighted sections of assignments, differentiated writing tasks, cooperative writing, and mastery learning groups. Another highly effective strategy at this level is the use of instructional conversations. You might have heard of Kid Talks. We've had a partnership with UGA, the Merit Group. They were previously Class A and now they're the Merit. But we've had an ongoing partnership with them, and we've done a lot of work around instructional conversations and found it to be very successful. But it goes back to the idea of the students doing the majority of the speaking and the writing and the engaging and the critical thinking. The teacher is more of the facilitator, facilitating the learning, but the students are the ones that are doing the work. And I like to tell teachers, you want the students to go home tired, not you. So you want to give them all the work to do. But these structured discussions provide opportunities for students to explain reasoning, defend ideas, build on thinking of others, and practice that sophisticated academic language in authentic contexts. This level is also significant because many students begin to transition towards exiting ESOL services. So when we're seeing that they're at levels of 4 or above, they are getting ready, they're demonstrating increasing independence and stronger command of academic language across content areas. They're fully exited from ESOL services at level 5, as you know, and I mentioned before. But support does not disappear after exit, and we have to keep reminding our teachers, we do, that they continue to receive that support even after they've exited for the first 2 years. So we don't have teachers that are trying to hold them back. Oh, pobrecito, they're not ready for middle school, and trying to hold them back, because then we end up having lifers. If they don't get that opportunity to exit out when they're really close, we do the reclassification, so we try to get them to exit when they're ready and then continue to support, as former ESOL students often continue to benefit from instructional best practices such as that academic vocabulary development, collaborative discussions, visual supports when appropriate, and explicit instruction in discipline specific language. So those tier 3 words that are content specific, discipline specific, they're using that. So the goal here is not to remove support completely, but to ensure students receive the level of support necessary to continue growing as independent, successful learners. So with all of this, we can help teachers have equitable grading focuses, which are on accurately measuring what students know and can do, while recognizing the difference between content mastery and language proficiency. Students may fully understand a concept, but still lack that English language skills needed to demonstrate that understanding through traditional assessments. So there's nothing we can do about district assessments or state assessments. It is what it is. But what we do in our class is to best prepare them so they will be as successful as possible given their language proficiency on our state mandates. But when grading is involved, this is more of that teacher understanding. So when grading multilingual learners, we should maintain those high expectations while ensuring that language barriers do not unfairly lower grades. This means clearly identifying whether an assignment is assessing content knowledge, language development, or both. Effective grading practices would include aligning grades to standards and learning targets, providing appropriate linguistic supports during instruction and assessment, allowing multiple ways for students to demonstrate mastery. And that goes back to looking at the individual domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Where are their strengths? Where do they need the support? So allowing multiple ways for students to demonstrate their mastery, focus on where their strengths are, monitoring progress towards both content and language goals, and communicating expectations clearly with students and families. The ultimate goal here is to ensure grades reflect learning, growth, and mastery rather than a student's current stage of English language acquisition. And California, it was a little bit different. We did actually give English language development grades, but that has not happened here yet. Um, Supporting multilingual learners is a shared responsibility, and this is a big thing. You might be the ESOL expert, the ESOL specialist in your particular school or a district, but it is a shared responsibility. It's not just the ESOL teacher, which that seems to happen in some of our schools. The students belong to everyone, and it is a shared responsibility. Effective scaffolding does not happen in isolation. It requires intentional collaboration among content teachers, ESOL specialists, and instructional teams. So the planning is very important and it is collaborative. While ESOL specialists bring expertise in language development, content teachers are the experts in grade level curriculum and instruction. The most effective support occurs when these professionals are working together. Collaborative learning teams create opportunities to design instruction that is both academically rigorous and linguistically accessible. Through that collaboration, teachers can identify language demands, plan appropriate scaffolds, and ensure consistency across classrooms and content areas, and provide students with coherent instructional experiences. So a practical workflow is reviewing those access and WIDA screener dates. So like I said, at the beginning of the year, that's a baseline. You have WIDA screener data for those new coming in, or you have access scores. And then you're identifying 1 or 2 language goals connected to the classroom instruction. So if you're in a CLT, those collaborative learning teams, and if you are departmentalized, then each person is working on their specific content area, but they would need to be looking at what is the language that's needed for them to access the content that you're trying to teach, and then demonstrate what they have learned of that content. So what is the language that's going to be critical to that? And that goes all the way back to the WIDA standards framework, right? Those language goals. So having those language goals as part of this planning process and working collaboratively to go through that, you can select appropriate linguistic scaffolds based on proficiency level and determine any necessary assignment modifications. Remember, assignment modifications is not watering down, assignment modifications. And in this process, then we can make sure that the instruction is accessible. It's that comprehensible input that we are providing to our students and giving them that opportunity to succeed and move forward. So when content teachers and ESOL specialists co-plan regularly, students experience a more cohesive instructional program, and language development becomes embedded in daily instruction rather than treated as a separate initiative. And remember that effective support for multilingual learners is not the responsibility of one department or one teacher. It is the collective responsibility of everyone who serves that student. So as we conclude, remember the targeted scaffolding allows multilingual learners to access, engage with, and succeed in rigorous academic content. Scaffolding is not about reducing expectations, it's about creating access. And when we design instruction around students' current language proficiency, we are not lowering expectations. We are creating pathways that allow students to demonstrate their intelligence, knowledge, and potential. Our goal is to remove linguistic barriers so students can demonstrate their true understanding and engage meaningfully with grade level content. The supports we've discussed today should be responsive to where students are in their language development journey. As proficiency increases, scaffolds evolve and become less intensive while the rigor remains high. When we intentionally design instruction with language in mind, we create classrooms where multilingual learners can fully participate in challenging academic work alongside their peers. And remember that multilingualism is an asset. Our students bring value, linguistic, and cultural strength. valuable linguistic and cultural strengths to the classroom, and those strengths enrich our schools and learning communities. So, by helping teachers combine effective scaffolds, equitable grading practices, and meaningful collaboration, we are helping our students build both academic knowledge and language proficiency. And ultimately, our work is about ensuring that language is never a barrier to opportunity. So, coming together, helping our teachers, supporting our teachers with all of these things, when we provide the right support at the right time, we empower our students to demonstrate their abilities, achieve at high levels, and reach their full potential. So I thank you for your commitment to creating equitable access and meaningful opportunities for every multilingual learner, and the work that you're doing to help other teachers understand the importance of all of this work for our students in Georgia. And that's it.
Wow, Maria,
I
as
know it was a lot
always.
of stuff.
That was amazing, but that's a ton of information, though. I really loved how you broke it down into levels. I feel like this is always so important to see that perspective that scaffolds are temporary, they are not permanent. And this is how we do it step by step, level by level. This was phenomenal. This was great. And again, I really love that you emphasized the WIDA standards. I mean, you can like or dislike WIDA standards or say whatever you want about them, but there is one thing that they really help understand in order not to be stuck in the same sentence frame from level 1 to level 5 the whole entire time. Because you
Right,
can modify that sentence frame based on the proficiency level descriptors that are
right.
laid out in the WIDA standards. So use that to not get stuck in the same thing. All right, well, let me just, do we have any questions?
Yeah,
Comments,
great question. But I was going to say,
ideas?
because I mean, you brought up a good point with the sentence frame. So one of the things is, like, I always like to put my students in either partnerships or triads. I love triads because partnerships, one takes over and the other one, you get them more engaged that way. And so you're gonna, if you're very intentional in how you put them together, you're gonna have the strong reader with a strong writer, and I prefer that they create it together as opposed to just giving them the sentence structure. And they're really just filling in the blanks. And when you do it this way, they can really start to have those conversations because it goes back to giving those opportunities where they can really practice speaking, practice writing, practice thinking, critical thinking, and they're supporting each other in that way. Um, so, but yeah. Any questions? Hopefully you found the suggestions. You probably already knew the suggestions. I mean, a lot of the good stuff has been around forever. That's why it's still around, because it's good stuff. But a lot of times it's helping the teachers, our content teachers, understand some of these things. You, as the ESOL experts, already know a lot of it, but helping the content teachers understand that, no, you don't just send them to me and I'm going to fix Maria Elena, right? This is a collaborative effort, and you need to be providing those scaffolds and supports all day, every day throughout the content. It's not going to just get fixed with one little ESOL segment over here by me. I don't care how good I might be, that's not going to do it. So, um,
Well, Maria, you also have a couple of really good comments in the chats and thank yous, and it was amazing, and all those things, and which I
oh,
agree.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for your feedback. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I think, will you have, I mean, I can send you the presentation and you can share it, right? Or you put the recording out there.
Oh yes. So yeah, it's summer, so I'm a little bit slower functioning right now, but I
Oh,
promise
you're
that
fine.
I will be sharing the recordings with everybody, as well as the recording for our previous session with Dave Kias, and I'll probably send them at about the same time. So yeah.
It's
make
no
sure
easy
that you.
task. It took me forever to figure it out. So,
Oh, listen, I'm still figuring it out, and it just I just wish technology worked in the same way every time, but it hits you different every time. So it's you never know.
yeah,
Uh, all right. Well, any questions or comments, or maybe just ideas or something that you guys would like to share?
that's just a lot of information. I take it, digest it, share it, make it your own. But we really appreciate you guys joining us, taking some time out of your summer to be with us. Georgia T Cell's a great thing, a great organization. So, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and I appreciate Georgia T Cell for inviting me. So, thank you so
Of
much.
course. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate you. And again, I second that absolutely. We appreciate you being here during summer months, which summer is always very different, especially the second half of summer. I feel like it just starts going a lot faster than the first 2 weeks of summer. It just starts racing for no obvious reason. But anyway, um, I just want to quickly remind you guys while you're still maybe thinking of a question or a comment or something else. So we do have the website, right? And it's georgiasoul.wildapricot.org,
Gosh,
where you can find
work.
all the
Baby,
information,
gotta go. Been
where
here
you
long.
can find the information about Georgia
Wait,
Tea Soul and what's going on, including our calendar
ready,
of
babe?
professional learning series. Um,
Gotta
and
go.
I will tell you right now that our next session will be on Thursday, August 13th. So that will be already the beginning of school year, 2026, right? And it will be interdisciplinary by design. That's what we'll be talking about. It will be exciting. More information will be coming out soon. Please don't miss that. Make sure that you register, even if you don't make
Ready?
during
What do
that
you gotta
first
wait for?
tough couple of weeks of August, you will still receive the recording eventually uh, at some point. But other than that, thank you all so very much. I will hang out here for just a few more moments in case you have questions or just want to chat. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and join in or ask a question or anything you would
There was
like.
a question in here, what grade? So when I was in the class, I was in the classroom for 18 years before I became a coach, and then I was a coach for 15. Now I'm a coordinator. So I mostly taught when I was in California, I was doing bilingual ed, first grade, second grade for the majority of that. I had done third grade, and then I came here and I was back in second grade. And then I did fourth grade, and then I did fifth grade. So I just never did kinder. I had my own babies, which my baby, my youngest, just turned 30. So I'm kind of like dealing with that right now. My baby just turned 30. But yeah, oh my God. And the other one's going to be 40 because they're 10 years apart. So the oldest will be 40 in December. That's pretty crazy. But, anyways, yeah, so I taught the majority of elementary school and I loved every bit of it. But then it was kind of like I was doing a lot of mentoring and professional learning, and this coach opportunity came along and I was loving that. And then it was like, okay, we need you to be the compliance coordinator. And I'm like, okay, so trying now.
Uh, Thank you. Can I ask my question? Because I teach middle school, and I did see. I mean, a lot of sometimes my concern because I used to teach for newcomers, and now I have to teach content, and so. But I know it's going to be a sheltered class, and so like I'm wondering how to balance using visuals and doing all of the things that you do for newcomers with having to teach them content because there you have to teach the standards.
Right. That's a great question. And what I have found is there's still children in bigger bodies and they still respond to a lot of the same things. So as I moved up and I had done middle school for a little while, but they and through my coaching, I coached K-12 in various schools. So a lot of the things that a lot of the visuals are going to be supportive. You just want to make sure that you're starting with the content, you're thinking about what it is that they have to know. And then you got to think about how am I going to present this so that it makes sense. So maybe it is that you're using a visual, you're using an anchor chart, and you're giving them some of the key vocabulary that they need to do. Or maybe you're doing a word map with the students, involve the students as much as possible, have them creating the product that you want together in a group. That's going to get them to really remember better than you presenting it to them. So it was, and you can use small groups. I saw Melanie was saying something about pulling small groups. You can also I did a lot with centers. And it doesn't matter how big they are. Centers are a very effective way, even when working with teachers. Doing rotations and having centers is a really good way for them to spend time together, focused on a particular piece of the big picture, and having them over here. They might be doing reading something and then creating a visual representation of what they have jigsawed together, right? I used to also, there was times where I would say, okay, here's your piece. Now that goes back to reducing the lexile. Like, we're all going to be reading about the water cycle, but your article might look different than his article because yours maybe has lower lexile, more visual support, and this one has higher lexile. It's where they need. But in the end, you two are going to come together, or you three are going to come together, and you're going to have to come up with a summary of what you learned about the water cycle. And the summary forces them to put all of that content into simple sentences, right? And then you might have the artsy one who they're not writing yet. Well, okay, well, then you're going to create the visual to go with these writing pieces. So it's really just kind of knowing who your students are, where their strengths are, and really getting them to do the work together. Like I said, we want them to go home tired, not us. Make them do the work.
Yeah, thank you very much for that example. I really love that. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Thanks for the question. That was great. Yeah.
But feel free to go enjoy whatever little time you have left. It's like you said, the summer is like flying by. And as I get older, it goes faster. I'm telling you.
Definitely feeling that.
Well, and those of you working on your doctorate, goodness sakes, good for you. I'm sure you have homework.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks again, Olga.
I promise to send the recording soon.